Today, we talk about if the Green Bay Packers should trade up in the draft, or maybe even down. Crossy Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I am your host, Tom Grossi, and today we are looking at a question that I've been seeing more and more in the comments of, Tom, what would you prefer? Would you rather trade up into the draft and get one of those elite players, those top 5 picks, or would you rather trade back a little bit? Just like it seems like the Packers do every year, but nothing will ever beat 2 years ago when we traded out of the first round and I waited up all night and then they never freaking drafted that night. But I'm not bitter. And so we're going to talk about that today. But before we get to that, I want to do a big shout out and thank you to all those members over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. You keep the show going with your support and your love and your monies. And if you want to see some cool rewards, including some fantasy football league entry, check that out at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. Now, let's take a look at some things here. The first thing I want to take a look at is the Draftnik draft trade value chart. And if you are not familiar with what this is, basically, it's obviously guesstimate, but this is a point value that is associated with every pick in the NFL draft. So for example, the first pick is worth 3,000 points, and then so on and so on and so on. So right now, the Green Bay Packers, with their 2 first-round picks, the number 12 pick is sitting at 1,200 points, and the number 30 pick is at 620 points. Meaning, if we're going off of this, that the Green Bay Packers, if they wanted to trade both of their first-round picks, could theoretically trade up with the Raiders into the number 4 spot. And so, this is the more common question I'm getting. We'll talk about trading back momentarily, but should the Green Bay Packers trade up to the number 4 spot, giving up their 2 first-round picks in order to get a number 4 spot or a top 5 selection? And for me, I think that's completely and totally dependent on who's available at that spot. So if we're going with Kyler Murray going as the number 1 pick, I'm assuming Bosa's going to go next, and then it's going to be either Allen or Williams is going to follow shortly thereafter. And so for me, while I love Allen and I love Williams too, Williams I'm a little bit more high on, I really don't see, I don't want to say the value. I really don't think it's worth it, though, considering, unless like Bosa, because I feel like Bosa is overall the best player within this draft. If he somehow, some way, which I don't think is going to happen, falls down to number 4, then I could potentially justify us trading up and getting it. But the way that I'm looking at it is right now, sitting where we are, the number 12 pick, I'm happy with it. But after the first top 5 picks, the talent within this draft is kind of the same until the 15th pick. The next 10 picks I feel are right around it. Anyone could really go in there. You could have quarterbacks go in there. You could have a variety of pass rushers, linebackers, offensive linemen, etc. And so I actually wouldn't want to trade back from the number 12 pick, and I wouldn't want to trade up necessarily because I feel like with the number 12 and the number 30, you're going to get 2 starters or hopefully get 2 day 1 starters. Now, when you're starting to talk about elite players, obviously every single player, regardless of how high they're projected or how good they were in college, I mean, it doesn't really mean a whole lot, right? Look at a Jamarcus Russell, for example. The guy looked like he had everything coming out of college and not so much. So I think when we're taking a look at this, I would be happy to kind of stay where we are. Now, if it was trading up to maybe the number 8 position, who knows, maybe Ed Oliver is still there, maybe you take a gamble on it and you attach a 2nd round pick with it. So would you trade a 1st and a 2nd, right, to move up a couple spots to go and get Ed Oliver? That I might be able to justify. But to trade both of our 1st round picks to move up, a total of 8 spots, I'm just not seeing the value there. And I'm curious to see what you think down below as who, what player do you think is worth trading that much for? Now, in addition, the whole idea of trading back. Again, I really wouldn't want to trade back at 12. That's just me, unless it's going back like maybe 2 spots, like if the Redskins wanted to jump up and snag a QB or something like that. I really wouldn't want to move completely. I wouldn't want to move out of the top 15. If we're going up and down like a couple spots and it's not costing us anything, and we're getting like a second round pick in addition to that, or maybe even a third, I'd be cool with that. But like last year, for example, like if a scenario comes where we could get a first round pick again next year just to move back a few spots, and then I think we got Jaire Alexander out of it, I think we could totally do that. But the number 30, I would be totally fine with trading back into the second round and getting either another number 2 or a number 3 for this draft, because I think the talent differential between the number 30 pick and us like going in the early second round is nominal. I really don't think that there's really much of a difference. So with that being said, trading back, yes, if you're the number 30 pick, that's fine, trading back into the second round. And then if you're trading back at number 12, I think the furthest back you go is 15, because then it starts getting a little bit more dicey. And then again, for trading up, maybe a couple spots, but I don't want it to cost our other first round pick. But let me know what you think down below. Do you think first of all, do you think the Packers are going to trade up at all? I mean, obviously they don't do it very often. They haven't done it in quite some time. Or do you think they're more likely to trade back? Or are they just going to chill at number 12 and number 30, which I would be content with, to be completely honest. Let me know what you think down below. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TOMGROSI Comedy. We're at Tom Grossi Comedy on all the social media see down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and of course here on YouTube 5 days a week until the draft, which we will be streaming a week from today. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.